Elmo's got a story up on Infowars.com and GCNlive.com. Iran attack moves forward. Iran permitted the U.S. and Israel to score a propaganda victory Monday when it refused to allow two International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors entry into the country for an inspection of its nuclear program. And it's now being used by the former head of Mossad to call for a preemptive strike with nukes on Iran. That's what the rest of the Israeli government's calling for. And a U.S./Israeli fleet is now off the coast of Iran. And Israeli papers are saying that they're preparing to start boarding Iranian ships and stopping goods going into the country, which is an act of war. So this could flare up today, a week from now, or a year from now. But it's definitely on the front burner. And this is so serious. But going back to Alan Watt, we'll talk more about that throughout the hour. Researcher, author Alan Watt. Alan, I was asking you the question of why are they so out in the open now? I mean, they've really shifted from admitting things more and more a few years ago, but spinning it to just, yeah, the CIA fakes fake bin Laden videos in the Washington Post. Yeah, the government's growing the opium and shipping it in. What's the big deal? I mean, what is that tactic, Alan Watt?
Part of it is a tactic of the creation of apathy within the general populace. When you're changing or shifting gears from one system to another, and you're destroying all the old, and you're increasing prices, you've got massive unemployment rates, all of that kind of stuff, you give them a kind of schizoid society, again, through all media, where on the one hand you turn on the television and things seem quite normal, there's your favorite old shows and everything's okay, and then you hear your schizophrenic news mixed with Hollywood and so on. So all the horror that you're seeing as the drones hit the wrong villages in Pakistan, kill people, is mixed up with the latest boob job and some Hollywood bimbo. Everything becomes surrealistic, and at the same time they hammer you with a new system, the ideas that subconsciously penetrate you, that you're going into or you are into a new system and there's nothing you can do about it. It's a creation of apathy mixed up with surrealism. It's a scientific technique, actually, intense, very advanced psychological warfare on a grand scale. And it's done through repetition. We've been going through it for quite a few years.
It's learned helplessness. It's confusing people. Never in an old tribal situation 5,000 years ago would you see happy bimbos cut into children dying. And so it's not normal. And so they're literally searing our neurons and programming us where we're a bunch of gibbering idiots and just can't even respond to real human activity as they reduce the language down where it's impossible now. I mean, I see people at grocery stores and the mall and the street, even well-to-do people who literally cannot hold a conversation. I mean, they have been turned into suboid slaves.
They have. It's linguistic minimalism, so you cannot express ideas of even frustration, never mind let's get ready for revolution. And Orwell went through that whole technique very, very well indeed. You cannot express a thought to another person or a coherent idea or a plan, and therefore nothing can come against those who are ruling you. It's very advanced psychological warfare, but Bertrand Russell and others said we have to create apathy amongst the public during this phase. That's what you've got to an extent as a form of apathy. It makes people feel powerless. What can you do is the only thing that they can possibly say. What can you do? Oh, well. And everyone, again, is tied into a system as we're trained to, like little animals, to work for this thing called money that keeps becoming more diluted like water, and everybody's afraid to lose the little bit that they have already, even though those who are at the top are bringing you into a system where you will be given ration cards and you will be given so many credits for being a good boy or a good girl, and you might buy that new iPod or whatever it happens to be.
That's right. That's the secret. They get you roped in to the casino. They get you roped into Wall Street. They get you roped into the pension, roped into Social Security, roped into the system on your smaller and smaller island, like Howard Beale says. Just leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my steel-belted radials, and I'll leave you alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm a human being. My life has value. I don't know what all the answers are. I just know first you've got to get mad. You've got to break your conditioning. You've got to see how they've incrementally lowered us into this morass of evil and dehumanization. You've got to break your conditioning and awaken out of it. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Alan Watt, author, researcher, is our guest. CuttingThroughTheMatrix.com is his website. Our websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And we were discussing before the break the mind control. The way that they have Geraldo Rivera with the Marine Corps colonel admitting that our forces helped grow the opium. And CIA aircraft are constantly caught with cocaine and heroin on board. And it's an open secret and came out congressional hearings. The government ships the drugs in. But now they just come out and admit they're growing it. And they come out and admit the CIA is putting out fake bin Laden videos. And they use the exact same replay of propaganda about Iran having nukes, just like Iraq supposedly did. And it comes out that Rahm Emanuel in mainstream, NBC, was getting kickbacks with Blagojevich, and that BP was paying illegally for his apartment. And no one gets in trouble. And it's just setting the precedent that, yes, it's just like a pimp breaks a prostitute. He gets her, he beats her up. And they have that HBO special about pimps, and they say, what do you pay your whores? I pay her nothing. And she likes it. Maybe I give her some fried chicken every once in a while. And there was a case we talked about in that same documentary where the prostitute's been hit by a car. She's almost dead. And her mother's there going, oh, my baby, my baby. And the pimp comes in all arrogantly. And she says, oh, baby, I'm going to get back up for you. I'm going to get back off out of this bed. I'm going to make you that money, baby. I'm going to do everything I can for you. And he's like, that's right. You better. And the woman just grovels. And I don't know what it is about the psyche, but many women, they like the bad guy in high school. I didn't know to a certain extent I was seen as the bad guy, but the point is that really the bad guy. And there's an expanded significance to that today where there's just we took trillions, Congress. The Federal Reserve says we're not going to tell you where it is. And it comes out in the Chicago Tribune that DynCorp and Halliburton have been caught running giant child kidnapping rings, and nobody gets in trouble. And it comes out that all of this is happening, and it's incredible. What do you call that scenario that I call the pimp game? I mean, how would you quantify that in Alan Watt terminology, Alan?
It's part of getting the public used to a form of lawlessness across the board in society. It's easier to control a society in a feudalistic fashion when the big boys come in with the black goons, the black bad goons and soldiers. It's easier to control them when they're already living in apparently a corrupt society where you give payoffs for everything and anything that you actually need even to basically survive day to day. In other words, there's no law and order on the bottom level, technically, and society itself becomes corrupted. They have to become corrupted to survive. And
as corrupt globalists, their carbon taxes that they admit will be on families won't be allowed to live in a home by themselves. Everything will be dormitories. There'll be a one-child policy. They're now announcing it. If you can have a factory, a business, a job, everything is up to government, and then it can selectively enforce it. And then it's the new super class where, hey, honey, you want to be able to have a job? You want to be able to have a hamburger stand? You look pretty good. You've got to serve my troops. This is what bondage means.
It does. And also, as I say, they needed this Gulf tragedy to bring in the carbon taxes. They've already been trading them, as I say, for 4 or 5 years in the EU. The European Parliament gave out millions of dollars or euros worth of free carbon credits for them to trade. They're already making profits off them. Lord Rothschild's with Al Gore, his bank in Switzerland has been agreed that's where all the carbon taxes for the entire world has to go through. They're not going to back off, you understand. I've set this up for the last few years, and everything counts on it. So they need to, and they will make whatever it takes to happen to get it rammed through until we're living in utter poverty and paying all. See, it's also a substitute, too, for consumerism. You'll find that everything that you earn will be getting paid back in fees and taxes, and there'll be very little left to live on at the bottom, and that's a substitute for a consumerist society. That's definitely part of their agenda.
And they admit that that's their agenda, is to bankrupt everyone. But the good news is, as you said, their carbon tax is in trouble, their wars are in trouble, their agenda on every front is in trouble. And that's why the FCC in the U.S. has now announced the Australian-style plan, a black box in the home that both spies on you and regulates what you can watch. I didn't even expect for them to come out this bold, this early, and to actually have it in newspapers in the U.S. almost as an aside of, yeah, we're going to track everything you're doing, and yeah, Google's driving around for the NSA, listening to everything you do illegally, and that's just the way it is, and yeah, we're going to start shutting down freedom of speech in America.